Chosen one, stop. Don't scroll. Don't multitask. This isn't background noise. If you're hearing this right now, it's because something about you broke a pattern that was never supposed to break. And what I'm about to say isn't dramatic language or exaggeration. It's the reason this moment feels heavier than normal, like the air itself is asking you to pay attention. I need you fully here because while preparing this message, something about your energy forced me to pause. Not for seconds, for minutes. In silence, there was a realization that landed so strongly it demanded stillness. You did something recently. And no, it wasn't planned. It wasn't calculated. It wasn't even something you meant to be noticed for. It came out of you naturally, almost quietly, like a reflex of the soul. And that's what makes it dangerous and powerful. Because in that moment, when no one was watching, when there was no applause waiting, when there was no reward guaranteed, you shifted something far beyond what your eyes can see. You caused movement in a realm that responds only to authenticity. Not performance, not words, but essence. What you did caught attention. Not human attention, higher. Here's what matters based on everything you've endured, everything stacked against you, everything you had every right to feel. Your response shouldn't have looked the way it did. Statistically, spiritually, emotionally, it made no sense. Anyone looking from the outside would have understood if you had reacted differently. If you had snapped. If you had hardened. If you had walked away colder, sharper, darker. That would have been expected. That would have been normal. But you didn't do that, and that's where everything changed. There was a moment, recent enough that your body still remembers it, when pressure was closing in. You were tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You were hurt in a way apologies don't touch. And in that moment, you stood at a crossroads no one else could see. One path led to justified bitterness. The other led to something harder, quieter, more costly. You chose the harder one. You didn't announce it. You didn't demand credit. You didn't even fully realize what you chose. But something within you decided, I will not become what tried to break me. That decision sent a signal. Understand this, most people live on autopilot. They react, they mirror, they reflect whatever energy hits them last. Hurt them, they hurt back. Disrespect them, they return it. Abandon them, they close off forever. These patterns are old, predictable, tracked, expected. But every so often, rarely, a soul does something unexpected, something that doesn't match the data, something that interrupts the pattern. That's what you did. You responded from a place deeper than instinct, deeper than emotion, deeper than survival. You chose restraint where chaos was justified. You chose grace where destruction would have felt good. You chose integrity when no one would have blamed you for letting it go. That kind of response doesn't come from training. It doesn't come from pretending to be spiritual. It comes from identity, and identity like that doesn't go unnoticed. There are systems in place, call them watchers, observers, witnesses if you want, that monitor the flow of influence around certain lives. Not everyone. Only those marked for impact. Most activity stays within expected boundaries, but when a response breaks expectation, it gets flagged. Your moment was flagged because what you demonstrated wasn't survival. Plenty of people survive. Survival doesn't impress anything beyond biology. What you demonstrated was mastery. You mastered yourself when self-control would have been the hardest thing to access. You governed your response instead of letting pain drive it. That is not common. In that instant, something about your trajectory was recalculated. Not because you asked for it, not because you prayed the right words, but because your character spoke without sound. Think back. It may have been a conversation where you swallowed words that could have destroyed someone. It may have been a betrayal you chose not to expose. It may have been a moment where walking away forever would have been understandable, but you didn't burn the bridge. That choice wasn't weakness. It was strength disguised as restraint. And restraint is one of the highest forms of power there is. From that moment forward, your file, your life, your path timing started being reviewed differently. Not because you're perfect, not because you're above others, but because you showed something many never do: consistency of light under pressure. Here's the truth most people never hear. Darkness doesn't fear anger. It expects it. Darkness doesn't fear revenge. It feeds on it. But when someone refuses to descend, when they stay anchored in who they are instead of what they're facing, that creates a backlash. Energy sent with the intention to break you had nowhere to land, so it returned. You may have already noticed this. Situations meant to block you collapsing on their own. People who moved against you suddenly dealing with chaos you didn't cause. Doors closing without you pushing them shut. That's not coincidence. That's recoil. At the same time, something else happened inside you. A strange calm, not happiness, not relief, calm. The kind that shows up when it shouldn't. Peace in the middle of unresolved tension. A sense of, I'm going to be okay even when logic disagreed. That calm was a sign. It meant you were being covered differently now. And with that coverage came clarity. Decisions that once felt foggy began to sharpen. You started knowing when to stay silent, when to wait. You didn't get instructions, you got alignment. That's what happens when attention shifts. Here's why this matters going forward. When a soul demonstrates this level of internal authority, timelines adjust. Things that were supposed to take longer start speeding up. Lessons others repeat for years, you close in one season. Opportunities that were delayed begin surfacing without effort. This is acceleration. Not because you rushed, but because you proved you could be trusted with more. Acceleration also comes with pruning. That's why certain people faded out. That's why some connections couldn't follow you. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Your environment is being recalibrated to match who you're becoming, not who you were forced to be. And yes, something is coming. You've felt it, that quiet anticipation, that sense of standing just before a threshold. You don't know what it is yet, but your spirit does. That's because a new role is forming around you. Not a title, not a platform, an influence. You're being positioned to cross paths with others, standing at the same crossroads you already crossed. And your presence alone will show them what's possible, not by convincing, by example. The strength that surprised higher realms is now part of you permanently. It's not leaving. It will be tested again, not to break you, but to expand you. And here's the final truth you need to carry with you. You weren't noticed because you tried to be. You weren't elevated because you demanded it. You were seen because you stayed true when it cost you something. That's why this message found you now, at this exact point, to confirm that your quiet decisions mattered, that nothing you endured was wasted, that who you chose to be reshaped what comes next. You are protected, you are observed, you are not forgotten, and from this point forward, you don't walk unseen anymore. Something else needs to be revealed now, and this part is quieter but heavier, because after attention comes responsibility and after recognition comes alignment. This is where many people lose the thread, but you won't because you didn't arrive here by accident. From the moment that shift happened, something subtle began reorganizing around you. Not dramatically, not all at once, but piece by piece, like a board being reset for a new game with higher stakes. You may have felt slightly out of place lately, even in environments that once felt familiar. Conversations don't hit the same. Certain goals don't excite you the way they used to. Things you once chased now feel strangely hollow. That's not confusion, that's recalibration. When a soul reaches a certain internal frequency, old containers stop fitting, and instead of forcing you to stay small, life starts nudging you forward. Sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly. That's why delays you thought were punishments turned out to be protection. That's why things you begged for didn't work out. You weren't being denied, you were being preserved. Here's what most people don't understand: elevation doesn't begin when everything improves. It begins when your tolerance for misalignment disappears. When your spirit quietly says, I can't pretend anymore. When you'd rather be alone than surrounded by energy that drains you. When peace becomes non-negotiable. That's not isolation, that's discernment activating, and discernment changes how you move. You're no longer meant to react impulsively. That season is closing. From here on, your power lies in response, not reaction, timing, not urgency, silence, not explanation. This is why you've been feeling pulled inward at times, less interested in proving yourself, less willing to argue your truth. You're learning that real authority doesn't announce itself. It waits. It observes, and when it moves, it's undeniable. Pay attention now, because this next part explains why resistance may temporarily increase. Not chaos, not collapse, but pressure. Pressure to compromise. Pressure to go back to what's familiar. Pressure to doubt the shift you already felt. That's not random. That's testing. Not from a place of cruelty, but confirmation. Every transition is sealed with pressure to see if it holds. And it will. Because you're not relying on emotion anymore. You're anchored deeper than that. You might notice people projecting onto you lately, misunderstanding your silence, questioning your distance, assuming your calm means weakness. Let them. You're not here to be interpreted correctly by everyone. You're here to remain intact. Explanation drains energy you need for movement. This is also why your intuition has sharpened. You're sensing things before they happen, feeling shifts before they become visible, knowing when to disengage without knowing exactly why. That's not paranoia. That's perception refining itself. When noise fades, signal becomes clear. Understand this clearly. The path ahead isn't about being louder, it's about being clearer. Not more visible, more precise. The influence forming around you isn't chaotic or dramatic, it's stabilizing. People will feel safe around you without knowing why. They'll trust you without logical explanation. Your presence will lower tension in rooms without effort. That's leadership in its purest form. You're also being trained in patience at a deeper level now. Not passive waiting, but active restraint. The kind that knows when to act and when to let things unfold. This is difficult, especially for someone who has always had to be strong, always had to move, always had to figure things out alone. But now, you're learning something new. You don't have to force what's already aligning. Let go of the need to chase clarity. It's coming to you. There may be moments soon where opportunities appear unexpectedly, conversations, invitations, ideas. Don't rush to grab them, sit with them. Feel their weight. Not everything that opens is meant to be entered immediately. Discernment will tell you which doors are assignments and which are distractions dressed as blessings. And yes, some people will fall away quietly now, not through conflict, through distance, through fading relevance, through mutual silence. Don't grieve what was seasonal. Honor it and keep moving. The strength you carry now isn't loud, but it's unmistakable. You've crossed from becoming into being, from proving into knowing, from seeking into standing, and this changes how life responds to you. You're not chasing alignment anymore. Alignment is finding you. Stay grounded, stay present, stay honest with yourself. The next phase doesn't require perfection, it requires consistency. Continue choosing who you are over what's easy. Continue protecting your inner environment. Continue trusting what you sense, even when it doesn't come with immediate proof. You didn't come this far to go back. And what's unfolding now doesn't need to be rushed. It needs to be received. Because this isn't the peak, it's the positioning just before it. Now we move into the part most people never see coming. The part that explains why your life hasn't followed a straight line, why progress has felt delayed, and why just when things seemed like they might settle, something would shift again. This wasn't instability. It was training hidden inside disruption. You weren't being prepared for comfort. You were being prepared for capacity. Every season that stretched you, every moment where you had to hold yourself together without support, every time you were forced to choose between becoming bitter or becoming better, those weren't random hardships. They were calibrations. Each one expanded how much responsibility, influence, and truth you could carry without breaking. That's why you were given weight before reward. Most people are given small assignments because that's all they can hold. You were given pressure early because your design could handle it. And yes, it hurt. It isolated you. It made you question whether something was wrong with you. But the truth is simpler and deeper. Your life couldn't follow the average path because you're not built for an average outcome. Here's something few understand. When someone has the potential to impact others, their internal world must be strengthened before their external world expands. Otherwise, success would crush them, attention would distort them, authority would corrupt them. So instead of elevating you too early, life fortified you quietly. You learned how to stay grounded when misunderstood, how to remain kind when unappreciated, how to keep moving without validation. Those are not common skills, those are stabilizers. And now those stabilizers are the reason what's coming won't overwhelm you. You may notice that you're no longer impressed by things that once distracted you. Status, applause, approval. They don't hit the same. That's because your motivation has matured. You're no longer driven by the need to be seen, you're guided by the need to be aligned. This is where many people fall off. They mistake this phase for emptiness, for boredom, for loss of passion. But it's none of those. It's refinement. The fire that once burned loud is now burning clean. Pay attention to your body lately. Your tolerance for chaos has dropped. Your system rejects what feels off faster than before. That's not weakness. That's intelligence. When your inner compass sharpens, your nervous system becomes part of the guidance. You're also being taught detachment without disconnection, learning to care without clinging, to love without losing yourself, to help without rescuing. This is crucial for what's ahead. You're meant to support others but not carry them, inspire but not deplete yourself, lead but not control. This balance is rare, and you're learning it from the inside out. There will be moments in this season where it feels like nothing is happening, no visible progress, no dramatic breakthroughs, just quiet days and subtle shifts. Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. Stillness is where alignment locks in. Think of it like a bow being pulled back. The tension isn't the failure, it's the preparation for release. Soon you'll notice momentum returning, but this time it will feel different, cleaner, less forced. You won't be chasing outcomes, you'll be responding to openings. Things will begin to line up without you pushing them into place. And when movement comes, it will come in clusters. Conversations leading to opportunities, ideas connecting to resources, paths opening that require you to step in, not fight through. This is where trust matters. You've learned how to survive. You've learned how to stand alone. Now you're learning how to receive without suspicion, how to allow support without feeling weak, how to accept good without bracing for loss. That's growth most never reach. The version of you that had to struggle for everything is retiring, not because you're incapable, but because you're no longer meant to operate from scarcity. You're shifting into stewardship, caring for what arrives, managing influence wisely. And yes, with that comes visibility, but not the kind that drains you. The kind that feels natural. People will start listening when you speak. Not because you demand it, but because your words carry weight now. They've been lived, not learned. There will be moments where you're tempted to rush ahead to prove you're ready. Resist that urge. Readiness isn't proven by speed. It's proven by restraint. Let the process finish shaping you, because the next phase of your life won't be about becoming stronger. It will be about using the strength you already earned, with wisdom, with precision, and with a calm that can't be shaken. This is where everything comes together, and I need you to listen to this part with your whole awareness, not just your ears. Because what's unfolding now isn't loud, and it isn't rushed, but it is final in the best possible way. You are stepping into a phase where your life stops asking the same questions over and over. Certain lessons won't repeat, certain cycles won't return, not because life gets easier, but because as you have changed, you're no longer being shaped, you're being positioned. From here on, movement will feel intentional, not chaotic, not reactive. You'll notice that situations resolve faster, not because you control them, but because they can't hook into you the way they used to. You don't leak energy anymore. You don't argue with what is. You adjust, respond, and continue forward. That alone puts you ahead of most people. This is also where protection becomes obvious. Not dramatic miracles, but quiet interceptions. Things that almost went wrong but didn't. Delays that saved you. Detours that rerouted you away from unnecessary loss. You may not always know what you were protected from, and that's intentional. Some things are blocked so cleanly they never become memories. You'll also notice that your standards are higher now, but softer. You don't demand perfection from others, yet you won't tolerate disrespect. You can hold compassion without compromising yourself. That balance is the mark of someone who has integrated their experiences instead of being defined by them. And here's something important: you don't need to announce this new chapter. You don't need to explain it. Let people discover it by how you move. Let them feel the difference without you pointing it out. The most powerful shifts are the ones that don't need translation. You are now a stabilizing presence. In rooms where emotions run high, you'll naturally ground the energy. In conversations filled with confusion, you'll bring clarity without effort. People will feel seen around you, not judged. Safe, not managed. That's influence rooted in integrity. From this point forward, trust the pull toward simplicity. Fewer words, fewer obligations, cleaner commitments. You're being refined toward what matters, and everything unnecessary will keep falling away on its own. Don't chase what's leaving. Don't question what's ending. Space is being made for alignment to arrive fully. And yes, what you've been sensing is real. A new level of purpose is unfolding. Not a role you have to perform, but a way of being that others will learn from simply by watching you live. Your life itself is becoming the message. There will be moments of awe ahead, quiet ones. Realizing you're no longer triggered by what once controlled you. Noticing how peace has replaced urgency. Recognizing that you're finally standing on solid internal ground. This is not the end of your journey. It's the end of uncertainty about who you are. You were selected not because you were flawless, but because you were faithful to your values when it would have been easier not to be. You were protected not because you were loud, but because you were consistent. You were guided not because you demanded signs, but because you trusted the path even when it was unclear. Carry this with you. Nothing that shaped you was wasted. Nothing that tried to stop you succeeded. Nothing meant for you has missed you. Walk forward calmly. Walk forward awake. Walk forward knowing you are covered, aligned, and exactly where you are meant to be. You don't need to look back anymore. What's ahead recognizes you. This is the final confirmation, and it's meant to land gently but permanently, not as excitement, not as pressure, as knowing, the kind that settles into your bones and doesn't leave. From this point on, your life will respond to you differently, not because the world has changed, but because as you have, you're no longer moving from a place of fixing or surviving. You're moving from alignment, and alignment changes outcomes without force. You'll notice that what once drained you now loses access. Situations don't cling. People don't pull at you the same way. Emotional hooks fall flat. It's not that you care less, it's that you're centered. And when someone is centered, nothing chaotic can take root. You are now operating from inner authority. That means you don't need permission to trust yourself. You don't wait for validation to act. You don't need to explain your instincts. You listen, you sense, and you move when it's time. That is what maturity looks like at the soul level. There will be moments when you're tempted to doubt this shift. Usually when things get quiet, silence can feel unfamiliar when you've lived in constant challenge. But this quiet isn't absence, it's stability. Learn to rest inside it. Learn to let things come to you, and they will. What's arriving in your life next will feel earned, not because you fought for it, but because you're finally ready to hold it without fear of losing yourself. You won't have to shrink to keep it. You won't have to overextend to maintain it. It will fit. People will begin to recognize something in you they can't name. They'll trust you, seek your presence, feel steadied by you, not because you're trying to lead, but because you've learned how to stand. That kind of presence invites others to rise. Remember this: you are not late, you are not behind. You were being prepared in ways that couldn't be rushed. Everything unfolded exactly as it needed to, so that when this chapter opened, you could walk into it whole. You are protected in ways you can't see, guided in ways you don't need to control, supported in ways that don't make noise.